Good evening. My name is Mark Dunham. I'm the chair of the board of the College of Western Idaho. We do really appreciate you attending tonight. We had a session in Boise Tuesday night. We had a session last night in Nampa. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do a short PowerPoint about the college, some of the history, and some of our plans. And we're also just going to, you guys can ask questions and we'll try to answer. And if we don't have the answers, we'll get back to you. We have Emily Walton, the vice chair. Our newest trustee, Skip Smizer. Skip and I have been friends for like 35 years. And Bert Glandon, the president of the college. And I also want to really thank the CWI staff for, helping put this all on. It's been a great thing. So thank you for that. And I also now I want to introduce. Let's see. No. We just have. Patrick. Patrick. Introduce yourself. Your position. Sorry.
Yeah, Assistant Vice President of the Student Enrollment Services.
Yep. Okay. Mark Browning is the Vice President of Community Relations and Government Relations. So we're going to turn it over to Mark.
Oh, I'm good here. Careful what title you give me, because that's what I got to do tomorrow, and I got to answer the boss. So, like Mark, I would say we normally, microphones away, but we've got an internet audience, and we're not counting the people over at the ball field. We're gonna say that they're all streaming this on their phones because they want to know what's going on. So, thanks for having us out tonight. Love getting out. Somebody I heard was headed to Middleton. Was it Tuesday? Great, super. So we'll be at Middleton High School on Tuesday. We are over at Caldwell High School next Wednesday, Eagle High School on Thursday, and then the next week Wednesday, Meridian City Hall, and we finish up June 1st over in Cuna. So that's our tour going on. If you want, you get thoughts. You wake up in the middle of the night and you say, you know what, I'm going to write down this email address because I woke up and I've got this brilliant plan to help CWI. Here's an email address for you. It's listingtour@cwidaho.cc, and I'll hit that again at the end. So we just want to give you a little background. We think that people know who we are and what we're doing, and the more we ask and the more we listen, the more we find out, they know we're here, but they really don't know what we're doing. So I want to start with what I think is really the bedrock of what the college is about, and it's locally elected trustees who direct this organization every day. You guys all know Skip, right? He's your neighbor. He's here in the community. He's supporting you. Emily and Mark, they live in this area, right? Our district is Ada and Canyon County. Our folks live here, and they're not state appointed by the governor. Not that he isn't a swell guy, but they were elected by you and me, the people who live in this district. So, just a quick snapshot of where we were just 11 years ago, really. In May, 11 years ago, there were 7 institutions here in the state. We had 2 full-on comprehensive community colleges, one in Coeur d'Alene and one in Twin Falls. We had a technical college over in Idaho Falls, the 3 research universities, U of I, BSU, ISU over in Pocatello, and then we had what we would have called the old normal school, which was up in Lewiston, Lewis Clark State College, which is actually one of the oldest in the state. 2007, 10 years ago, voters in Ada and Canyon County, you voted this college into existence. And as I look back at the history, and I've talked with some of the sages that are around, this district here in Parma had one of the highest percentages of support to establish CWI. So we really do appreciate that. We want to give you a little update tonight what we've done in 10 years. So classes opened up just spring of '09. We opened up, serving students in both Ada and Canyon counties both. By 2010, a year later, we had over 17,000 students. So I'm not great at math because I was born and raised in Montana, but I can tell you 1,200 to 17,000 is a lot, okay? There's a statistical term in there, but I think where I came from, it's a lot, all right? But our folks handled it. We started to get our students active. Our speech and debate team has now, as of this past month, won 5 national championships. So it is incredible what our students are doing. We added on in 12, we have the Micron Center for Career Technical Education, so the traditional trades, welding, machining, those types of things, and also auto and diesel tech, right? That was a great effort that came forth with community donors between the Micron Foundation, really the Albertson Foundation, bought out the old Sam's Club building there, and then we refurbished it. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility where our students are now being taught the absolute latest in technology. Our Ford techs are hired and ready to go before they ever hit the door of graduation. 2013, we really started to work on our transfer agreements that go to the other state schools to ensure that all the courses that they take here at CWI transfer. If they want to do their first 2 years and go to Moscow, they want to go to Pocatello, they want to transfer over to Boise State or up to Lewiston, those are all fully transferable now. All of this came with a lot of business decisions of where do we put these now 24,000 students. We own 3 buildings, the Micron Center, the academic building that was gifted from Boise State over when the college first started, and the Canyon County Center, which is there on the boulevard between Nampa and Caldwell. Those are the 3 buildings that we own. We lease everything else to the tune of over $2 million a year. We've had to go out and find space. And that's one of the themes that we're going to go through tonight, because we negotiated those leases in the trough of the recession, and they're all coming due in 19, 20, and 21, and we know with the economy the way it is, it's going to cost us a little more money. 2015, we worked a lot on remediation. 60% of the students that show up at our door, whether they're right out of high school or they come at age 26 or 7, our average age, or if you were like me and a little older than that, when you finally got your head on straight and went to school, need math and English remediation. Our remedial courses now move them in the same track as they're taking their 4-credit courses so that they're not losing time, because what we found is that many of these students just needed a little bit of brush up, but they'd sit in that remedial course for the entire semester that they were paying for the course and they got no credit for because it was remedial. They had to get up to college level. So our folks have worked very hard to help that make a better situation. We finished up our application for accreditation, which is essentially our licensure with the Northwest Commission. That's what gives us the ability to disperse federal financial aid and, more importantly, get our own programs. So academic programs. We operated initially under the umbrella of College of Southern Idaho over in Twin. Now we have our own, so we can put together our own programs that are relative right here to the Treasure Valley. We were granted that this spring, so we're fully on our own. The analogy was put out there that we're kind of like that gangly teenager that's graduating high school at age 17. We're ready to be out on our own, but we stumble a little bit here and there, and that's why we're here tonight. We need a little help, maybe a little shoulder to lean on. We get some advice on which way we need to go. So, as we're moving forward, this tracks our enrollment, and I want to show you a couple of things. Career and technical education, academic affairs. When we say academic affairs, we mean those students who want to come and take those traditional academic programs and then transfer on to a 4-year school. That's what we would classify under academic affairs. If you look, the numbers really do peak in about 2013. What happened in 2013? The economy started to get a little better. Jobs, right? People stayed in employment more, and our enrollment starts to soften. That's just the way it is in our business. We're counter-cyclical to the economy. So now when the economy's good, our enrollment goes down. When the next recession comes around, the doors are going to bust wide open again. What we're doing now is getting a feeling from the community of how to help us prepare for that next wave that will come in. The good side is we do have 2 sides of the house that are really growing and growing aggressively, dual credit. So your students right here in Parma take dual credit courses through us where they get credit for their high school graduation and on their college transcript. So many of them have the opportunity to actually graduate from college at the same time they're graduating from high school. And then workforce development is the non-credit side of the house. So we take a customer, say, a machinery company, and they need to specialized train for maybe 3 weeks on a certain procedure. They come in, we help build the curriculum, they come in, and we train those workers, and they go back out. So as we're moving forward, Canyon County is about 35% of where the students call home residency. The remaining being in Ada County. Out of district is about 10. District meaning anybody who lives within the state of Idaho outside of those 2 counties. So from the other 42 counties, and about 2% out of state. Most of that is from the border of Oregon coming over, and we get a couple out of Montana and Utah, not too many. We serve fairly equally, 9,500 here in Canyon County, about 8,200 in Ada County, where we've had classes, both of those, since '09. And online, we got about 6,200 students who are just taking their degrees online. That is helping to drive, as the enrollment is actually softened, we're actually awarding more degrees and certificates, so we're getting more efficient, and the students are taking more. They're coming out, some of them with multiple degrees and multiple certificates. One of the things that we've done is we're really beefing up our online offerings. We're finding that students want those options. They may not go fully online. They may take 2 classes online and 1 in person, but it's whatever fits their schedule. And a lot of the online classes are becoming what they call hybrid classes, where some of the coursework is face-to-face, like most of us went to school, except the really young ones here, right? All of us old guys in the audience. And then you do part of the work online in an online program. So we now also have a general education certificate. So many of our students transfer before they finish. They say, you know what, I've come in, I've proved to myself I can do that work, and I'm ready to transfer on. We now have a certificate where they get their general education. So their math, their science, their English, that core becomes complete, and that's fully transferable to those 4-year schools. So they can't break it apart and say, you know what, our English is just a little better, so we'll give you some elective credit for that. You don't have to go take PE, but, you know, because your English will count for that. I've never figured that out, how English can count for PE, except if you learn the words not to say during dodgeball. We work very closely with the businesses and industries and the other organizations here in the Valley. We have to. We want to. These are the folks that help shape our curriculum. They help shape what we're doing. We're involved in all the local chambers as well. So these are partners that we're working with, and they're working with us to help guide us as we go down this path. I want to just tell you a very quick story about Western Cat. It's one of the great stories that we've come up with. The demand for diesel techs in this state is off the chain. And many of our students that were coming in, they were leaving before they'd complete the program. And Western Cat was hiring them. And we went to them and said, you know, you're a great partner, but dang it, get your hands off our students. They're not getting complete. And they said, we need them. We can't wait. We can't wait 2 years for you guys to finish what you're doing. We need them faster because we're losing business. So Cat came in, sat down with our folks, and they completely redesigned all the curriculum that they teach them. And we compressed it down. And we said, okay, your job is now school full-time, 8 to 5. You go 13 months. You get the full degree, and Cat hires you as soon as you're done. It's been a great partnership that they've got. Now those students know where they're headed. Workforce, as we said, is the stuff that we do not for credit, but many of the programs that we're working are working with our major industries here, both large and small, in the healthcare with Luke's and Al's, West Valley, and also the trades. Apprenticeships. It's funny how this stuff cycles back, right? When we were kids in the 60s, apprenticeship is where you went, right? You got an apprenticeship as an electrician or as a plumber. Those apprenticeship programs are in high demand now. So we touched on accreditation, our ability to licensure. I just want to make the point that it takes 7 years of making sure you ace every test along the way. Think about that. You have a 7-year course and you can't get a 99. You got to get 100 every time. That's what we just went through. And it's set us up now for the future. So this is why we're here tonight. And this is why we have our trustees here, because we need some help. We've got a new strategic plan that says, okay, we know growth is coming, right? Maybe in different ways, but we know the institution is continuing to grow. And the facility issue is a big issue for us. We're leasing all over the valley. We know if we can consolidate, we're going to be more efficient. Right? There's economy of scale that comes in. If you have your buildings all in one pod like you have here, you can run a lot of the crews back and forth, right? We're not spread out. The other part is for our students. Students are zinging all over the valley. President tells a story of the student body president 2 years ago that because of the way the courses were, she put 100 miles a day on the days that she went to class, going back and forth trying to get classes. So the big thing for us is we must and we want to remain fiscally sustainable. We got to be able to figure out how to do this the most efficiently way possible without the biggest tax burden, both to the student, that tax in the form of tuition and fees, and to us, the taxpayer, right? What we're paying for property tax and what we pay through the state through sales tax and income tax. So let's just touch funding here very quickly, and then I want to open the floor up to the trustees and you guys to have a conversation. We're roughly a $60 million operation. That's about what our annual budget is, give or take. 40% of that comes from tuition and fees. It's $139 a credit for a student living right here in Parma. That's tuition, that's fees, that's everything. Per credit, they're going to pay $139. If you live over in Payette County or Washington County, there's a $50 per credit fee that goes on top of that the state enacted in 1982 to help subsidize here, because the taxpayers here, you're paying the burden, but a kid from over here in Fruitland can come and take the same class. Why should they get it at the same price? So that's the out of district that comes in. State funds are basically broken up in three different ways. General fund is, as most of us track that, is sales tax and income tax. There's a CTE allocation, which is the career and technical. That comes through a separate bucket, and then we get about $200,000 through the liquor fund. And our county property tax runs about 13%. So that's between the two counties, the valuation that comes in and the rest there. So now it's time for you all to have a conversation. So, yes, sir. You guys want to come up here and sit down, or you want to stay where you're at? What's good for you? I think we got enough room, right? They do, because, well, so sit where you're at, but I'm going to bring you the microphone just so that folks at home on the web can hear you. So
I was curious, has that proportion of students from within the district, outside the district, Ada and Canyon County, has that changed since you started?
You know,
Or has it been
relatively little. Relatively little. The bulk of the students, about 53%, come from Ada County. Only about 35% claim their residence as Canyon County, but the bulk of them actually attend physically in Canyon County, because that's where the main academic building is. The big 3-4 story one that sits there by the Idaho Center, and then across the street there's two other academic buildings that we lease. And so that's where most of them attend. They drive out at this point. You
May I
got
ask
the mic,
another?
so you go until somebody taps you out. You're okay.
What's the possibility that the counties north and south of us would eventually join the district?
Good question. Are you green light there? You're good. Oh, here we go. I'll try to do this without my glasses. So there you go. You're good.
We have talked to other counties about joining the district. Gem County is a logical one. So again, we have been talking about it for several years. At this point, it hasn't happened, but we always have those discussions. I'm sure I'm not answering your question, but again, the county commissioners, they're all aware. We have all these discussions, but at this point, they haven't decided to join the district.
Maybe I'll just add this, is that the process to add a county it's a lower threshold than it is to establish a college. So to establish a college, we had to exceed, as voters, 66 2/3. To establish, it's 55%, or to join a contiguous county, it's or whatever, you can do it by a political subdivision. So if a school district on the edge, right, would want to do it, they could do it. It's 55%. Now, the upside is for those of us who live in Canyon and Ada counties, is that helps kind of spread the taxing over more area, more value, right? The upside for a county to join, in my opinion, is, I talked about that $50 a credit, they get an amount from the state in their liquor disbursement that comes to them. Once they exceed 50% of that for out-of-county reimbursement, which a lot of the surrounding counties, it happens to them. Gem County's a good example. Minidoka and Cassia County over in the Magic Valley, because they're so close, those students attend, they got to pay $500, up to $500 per semester. They get upside down in that liquor fund, and then they have to go to their general levy, so their levy often ends up higher to pay the full freight. So if they join the taxing district, all that stays in their county, and it's actually discretionary. They can use it as they see fit. So Counties like Canyon County, Ada County, Kootenai County, I know, they fund their entire DARE program, well funded, out of their liquor funds, because they don't have, they send very little. They have very, very few kids from Kootenai County that come down and attend with us or over in Twin Falls. So I think there's a lot of advantages for a county like a Gem County with kids from Emmett, or maybe a Payette County up here that's close, where those students can reasonably attend. There's a lot of incentive for it. I don't know how closely you followed the news, but over in Idaho Falls, they just voted to change the two-year technical school to a full-on community college. One of the big driving reasons why was Bonneville County was sending hundreds of thousands of dollars to Twin Falls every year for out-of-district. Now that money will stay back home for them in Idaho Falls.
Why would you have people from the southern Idaho area coming over here for classes? Unless they're vocational, that's not offered as someplace else.
Why would a student want to leave the Magic Valley and come over here for class?
Well, I mean, I'm from Twin Falls, and I think it's just quality of life. I mean,
It could be program specific.
true.
Sure.
There's a lot of, the president of CSI and I talk constantly, and we try not to step in each other's pool, so to speak, but there are program-specific reasons why a student would go from Boise to Twin to get a specific program that may not be offered at the level that they need here.
Oh, here, there you go. Very good.
Related to that is, I saw on the PowerPoint presentation that there's a healthcare need and that the growth in that area. What are the plans for that?
That's a great question. I'm going to leave the
Well,
mic with you,
one of
'cause then
the,
you can ask follow-up. So
One of the proposals when we had the bond election was to build a health sciences building in Nampa. Well, the bond failed, so at this point, the staff and the trustees are trying to determine what we're going to do next. But we do know that healthcare is our biggest need. And so we've been talking to hospitals, we've been talking to, private partnerships to see if they can help. We've been talking to the state to see if there's any help at all. But I mean, our surveys when we were thinking of doing the bond, we knew that health care was the biggest reason to build a building. And so that is still our biggest need, is to build a health sciences building. Right now, we're just trying to determine how to pay for it.
all right, keep going. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Well, I like the questions when it comes to the districts and how we can grow, our CWI can grow. Is there a way that to grow along with the healthcare and the expansion into other divisions? Incorporate the hospital systems.
By other divisions, do you mean like additional healthcare places for students to learn, or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and a collaboration of efforts.
Sure.
So we've definitely been talking with the two, biggest hospitals in the area to see if they, at what level they could help us build a building. Right now, we aren't really talking about building a lot of different buildings in a lot of different places because it's already, just so much money to build one. But, we're always interested in partnerships. In fact, you might have noticed on the slides, one of the things that we try to do so much at CWI is make sure that all the education we're delivering, especially in our workforce development and our technical skills, goes back to companies in the area who need those skills filled so that students will stay here, will get a job here. And so I don't know if that really satisfactorily answers your question, but we're always working closely with businesses to see what they need.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the rural communities, you can't look at the news and not hear about physicians just needing the lack of physicians and then the lack of the help that supports the physician.
Right.
So, but on a related, like on a national level, you see these workforce development programs, the like, throughout the country. There is a growth to become an RN, to a BSN, to a, and further on. It is very limiting to be in the workforce development program, and yet it is still one of the biggest programs. And it wasn't really broken down to like which exact programs of the workforce development that are succeeding, but
Do you mean like for the information that we gave? Do you want more information on that?
that would be helpful, I guess.
we can do that.
It'd be nice to kind of see how that is, and then what are the programs that people are searching for on the internet?
Yeah. President, go ahead.
I would just like to clarify, if I might clarify, workforce is a separate component. All the programs in workforce are succeeding because all of them have to pay for themselves. In the academic arena, like with nursing and with the healthcare professionals, we have about a dozen different programs that are academic with academic credit, and those are all directly correlated and tied with the hospitals. In fact, St. Al's and St. Luke's are now collaborating with us on class groups to add class 25 students at a time. And you're absolutely right, particularly in the nursing and the healthcare. In the nursing in particular, they have to have a hospital with clinicals where they can go to get their clinicals in order to get their degree. So there's a direct correlation and there's a direct tie to those healthcare programs and the industry around us. West Valley, St. Al's, St. Luke's, retirement homes. There's huge, in the 380 business and industries that work with us, a lot of that is the healthcare industry saying, here's how we need to collaborate and coordinate on our program delivery.
You're talking about an apprenticeship, correct?
No, these are academic transfer programs.
They're
Our
for-credit
nurses can go
programs,
on and complete and go to BSU and pick up their BSN.
Yes, that's a program here at CWI, but I mean, to get into the nursing program is...
It's rigorous.
It is, and
Well-
at any of the...
Well, it's very, very difficult for two reasons. One, there's very high standards to get in. Two, we probably have 280 to 300 students apply for 40 positions. Three, they keep saying, why don't we just add more nursing classes? We could, except the dilemma is if you bring in all 200 that are applying and they all qualify, bring them in and we teach them, they hit the wall in a year because they have to go into clinicals to be certified. If the hospitals don't have the clinicals, if we don't have the clinicals, they can't get certified, so they could sit for a year or 2 years waiting to get their clinicals in before they could actually be certified to be a registered nurse or an RN.
Just the same as we have facility issues
Yes.
that bottleneck us, the hospitals have, and that's why you're seeing them build so aggressively. One, there's huge demand for healthcare, right? We're all getting older.
Well,
Some of us are
also
falling apart.
healthcare, that is offered to the students because there's a liability issue with the hospitals, and that the student working at that facility.
They've got to have enough of that background. They're going there to learn, but you can't just turn, a first semester student loose, right?
Right.
Correct. There was something over here, I heard.
No, I was just, I mean,
Did I jump that?
No, I was just, part of it is facilities. We have limited space, and all of our health programs are in, leased buildings. So that's part of our priority is to build a health sciences building. Our graduates succeed. I mean, I think all of our nurses.
100% placement.
Yeah.
100% graduation, 100% placement. In fact, we had a nursing graduate pinning ceremony, which is their graduation, 2 weeks ago, Saturday, at St. Al's. And literally, I walked down the gauntlet. I always meet the students ahead of time because I want to build relationships in case I end up in one of the hospitals. I want them to know me. But the fact of the matter is that I walked down and shook hands with every one of them. Every one of those students, nurses graduating, they were either working at St. Al's, West Valley, St. Luke's. Two of them were working at a primary health.
Yeah.
Every one of them had a job before they even finished the pinning ceremony.
you and I were talking before the session, and I mentioned that my niece graduated surgical tech, and she got a job in Twin Falls, St. Luke's right away. And so, I mean, our graduates are successful.
I think one of the
facilities.
things, when we talk about leased buildings, we leased all these buildings in 2008 that we're in now. All those leases come due in 2017, 18, 19. So, we will not be able to renew the leases at the same rate that we got them in 2008. And quite frankly, without extended facilities, without new facilities to move into, there's no way for us to handle more nursing staff or more nursing programs without facilities to work out of.
And the apprenticeship, as I learned through the Department of Labor, I think they have a relationship with St. Luke's. Now, they're not going to CWI.
Mm-hmm.
They're going through an online program separate from CWI. So how is CWI going to handle that in the future to prevent that?
I don't know that that's an RN program.
It's there's an MA program.
Oh, medical assist.
Yeah.
Medical
We do
There's
medical assist
Yeah.
too, and we work
Yeah.
with the Department of Labor on medical assist. We actually have 2 new class groups in a medical assist, and we work with the Department of Labor. We are one of their partners that are delivering that.
Yes.
That was, I was going to jump in and say, you know, nursing, doctors, physician assistant,
Coding,
nurse practitioner,
Medical coding.
you know, those are a lot of the glamour positions. If you, certainly not glamorous to go through the process, but you know, those are what we think of. But there's 2 times the positions available for all the support people. So medical assist, billing and coding, IT functions within that. All of our patient records now, they're trying to get to, you know, digital portability so that, you know,
Tell me
young
about
Patrick
it.
over here,
Yeah.
right, joined us right at the beginning of the year from Pennsylvania. You know, he now needs all of his records transferred out here to Idaho for he and his family. So, you know, HVAC,
Yeah.
heating and air conditioning, it's a huge need with these new hospitals because they are big buildings.
Well, one of
right?
the reasons
They got to all
that-
be engineered.
Yeah, one of the reasons that St. Luke's and St. Al's is working so closely with us right now is because they know, we meet with both of the CEOs of both those hospitals. They are building a brand new hospital. St. Al's building a brand new hospital. St. Luke's is building a brand new hospital. 800-900 employees per hospital. And they're going, we don't have the resources. We need human resource to make this work. And of course, we're turning back and saying, we need help to deliver the product to you, to deliver the human resource to you.
And it's not just those areas, it's this area.
Western Treasure Valley.
It is,
Yeah, everywhere.
I mean, it's kind, to me, I see it as related. I mean, these rural communities are traveling beyond their means of transportation at most times, and yet we don't have enough staff to assist them in our own community. We can't train them. We don't have a facility. I mean, where does our state and federal government step in to help with all this?
Who wants to take that one?
Well, I think one of the key factors is this is a community college. And so the support is going to come from the community. I don't think we're looking for the feds to come in and help us one little bit, but I do think that we've done a very good job in establishing partnerships with, 380 different entities, and by working with them to try and meet the community's needs, that's where our source is. I think in an area of fairness, I think that the state should help fund this health and science building. And I know we're working along that way to try and do a partnership where we will do a portion of the funding, the state would do some funding, and hopefully private partners would do it. But any of the solutions we're going to find are going to come out of this community.
And the community needs it because Idaho is very low on the list. I just saw a statistic where Idaho, in just mental health, went from number 49 to number 48, including Washington, D.C. So there must be a community need that CWI is not tapping into to get that support that is needed.
And that's why we're here. That's why we're coming around with the trustees, is to say, hey, we need help. We don't have all the answers. That's why we're looking to folks like you and say, hey, help us out here. So we want to work together and find those solutions. Is that fair to say? Yeah. I feel like we ought to introduce ourselves and, you know.
Yeah, why don't we, yeah. Why don't you
So
just introduce
your name is? Oh, no. I know his name. Your name is?
Well, I was curious, the partnership with the two largest hospitals and other hospitals, is that a financial arrangement, or is there any, they just take the students, or do they help support the students that are going through classes? How does it work?
Good question.
Right now, it is the two major hospitals, St. Al's, St. Luke's, and West Valley to a certain extent. They are supporting student scholarships or help funding programs. We are having conversations now. We're having serious conversations about long-term financial support. As each one's building a hospital, we're also saying to really get the synergism that you're going to need, we need some support in order to make this work together. Prior to this, their support has been specifically geared towards student scholarships and getting graduates out as quickly as possible. But we are in conversations with them now on a different level.
So I have a question for you guys. I have family from Parma. What can CWI do to help Parma?
Nope. There you go. Very good.
Fortunately, the superintendent went to another meeting, I think. So
They do that, don't they?
he's in a better position than I am. I don't even have kids in school anymore, but I'm sure there's something that you could do. But our district, we're very proud of, and we think they're very effective. And I'm not saying they've gone as far as they could, but they've gone a long ways, and farther than most districts in providing these credits. People graduating as juniors. And so I can't answer your question exactly, but Jim Norton would have a much better idea. I could go round him up if you want to. But
As a
he's in that
patron
other
of the
meeting.
district, though, what's your perspective? Because you mentioned your kids are gone through. But as a member of the community who has enough interest to come out here tonight, what's your perspective? What
Well,
needs
I'd be glad to
happen?
share my perspective with you. My dad was an administrator at two-year college in Southern California. We didn't have a lot of money, so
That's the world
because
of
I wasn't
two-year
the brightest
schools.
student in the class, and we didn't have a lot of money, I went to a two-year institution, ended up taking 2.5 years worth of credit that I've fully transferred to either University of California at Riverside or Fresno State College at the time. So I'm a believer and voted for the bond. It was a long time coming. Should have been done long time ago. So I'd like to support it, and if another bond comes up and it's reasonable, I will vote for it. It makes so much sense, and I think that's why you touched into a very sensitive nerve, and that's in part the reason you have the growth that you did. I think that's a testimony to the need that there was, continues to be. And so that's my perspective, and we were fortunate to have this man come to our Lions Club and give a nice report not too long ago. And it was excellent. We'd like to see that outreach continued, especially as rapidly as they're growing and as programs change. We'd like to, the communities that are in the district in the case. And I'd say you might want to go out of the district if it means you could get some of those other counties convinced that it's in their best interest to be a part of the taxing district.
Yeah,
So anyway,
very good.
you're here in Parma. Here in Parma, I don't know this area myself, but if you're going to reach the community and you want to get the community's support, where I would start is by looking at where does the community do? They go to the grocery store, they go to the pharmacy, a survey. What can CWI bring to the community? What are the community's needs? What are the concerns about the parents or about the 30-year-olds that don't know if they want to have a kid or they're still looking for their way in life? Just look at your demographics and ask yourself, who are we not talking to?
Good.
So the idea is do more surveying.
I would say just
Community
ask
needs.
around, community, just involvement.
Mm-hmm.
Just being involved in the community because, you'll have a quantitative study, but you'll have a more qualitative perspective if you say, go to these baseball games at the community, come to the college, visit with the students.
Good. I like it. Very good. More questions up here? You guys are here to listen, so if you want to ask more questions. Oh, you're looking to get rid of that thing because you know I'm going to bring it right back to you. See, I told you. There you go. Go right ahead. See, all I got to do is make a move. There you are. So you.
I was curious, you've had this phenomenal growth, and I was wondering what College of Southern Idaho's growth has been in that time, and also Treasure Valley Community College. Was it anything like, I know it couldn't possibly have been like what we've had, but
So when the recession hit in 08, 09, all the schools in Idaho saw growth. Nobody saw growth like CWI. In fact, in the history of community colleges in this country, CWI holds the record for the fastest growing. I mean, from that 1,200 to that 17,000 was just, we use that term unprecedented, but it really was. CSI grew substantially during that time, but now they've constricted back. And that's a function of the economy. That's what happens with community colleges. When the economy's better, the students stay more in the workforce. Rather than go full-time, they might take one class. Maybe they don't take any at all and they stop out for a couple of years and they come back. We always use this analogy that education is a freeway, and there's lots of exits and on-ramps. And they get off and they come back. They get off and they come back. They complete this and then they move on to the next one. And that's why we work to have those stackable credentials so they can put that in the trunk, right? Move on, they get off the exit, they come back on. As to Treasure Valley, gosh, I should go down the hallway and grab Senator Lee since she works there, but they've not had the same fortune. Their enrollment's down from what I understand, and it's fairly low. It's under 500, I think.
It's 400 and something. I was the president of Treasure Valley Community College before I went to Denver. I was in Denver for 9 years, then I came back. And there was unintended consequence was when CWI was established. When I left Treasure Valley, there were 2,800 students. And that was 18, 20 years ago. And we...
And Bert, that includes Ontario and Caldwell, correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
No. Actually, when I was there, it included Ontario, and we had an agreement with the Oregon legislature that was not, don't ask, don't tell, and almost 70% of our student body when we were at 2,800, almost 70% were out of Idaho.
Yeah.
And so when CWI was established, it literally devastated Treasure Valley Community College in the event that they still have sports programs, they still have student housing and those kinds of things that we don't. But the fact of the matter is they dropped from 2,800 to 400 and it's 400 57, I think, students now. So they literally are reassessing how they might operate. In fact, Abby Lee, we can get Abby Lee down the hall. Abby will come down and tell you that they've redefined themselves as a boutique community college, because it is so small now that they're looking at it from a different standpoint, that you come here for truly some specific things. As Mark said, our growth is unprecedented in the history of community college. And I had both the American Association of Community College President, George Boggs, during the 2009, 10, 11, he was literally calling me every other month going, what are you doing? And the other part of it was the Northwest Accrediting Association. We became larger than CSI, who was our host college for accreditation. And the comments from the Northwest Accrediting Association was, where did these students come from? And Boise was the largest metropolitan area with no community college. And quite frankly, when you put a community college into a community like Boise, like the Western Treasure Valley area, what you found was there was a huge number of students. Couldn't afford to go to the universities, didn't have the grade point average, had no intention of going on to college because it was a not achievable goal in their family, in their social structure, or anything else. And when we came into play and all of a sudden we started telling stories of what was happening, when there's opportunity to come to a college for a very affordable cost, less than a third of what the universities were charging, and you could get in without a 3-point grade point average, you could come in with a 2-point grade point average or less, depending on what kind of remediation needed to be done. All of a sudden there was a huge opportunity that created hope. And the only thing I could tell the Northwest Commission was there was all of a sudden opportunity that the community realized, wait a minute, I can do this. And the more that came and told their friends, the more came, and it was word of mouth. In fact, the second year that we were operating, the board members that were here the second year, we quit marketing. We said the word of mouth is not killing us, but the word of mouth, we were growing so fast by word of mouth, we don't need to be marketing, because the students were coming in droves.
Well, I'm assuming you had students that were on the Boise State campus that moved over to some extent, at least for a while, but that didn't sustain the growth that you've had.
Interesting thing about Dr. Custer at BSU was very, very concerned when Sullivan College, we moved all the technical programs over, and that was about 1,200 students. Very concerned about that, and actually we talked to the legislature and said, look, there's going to be some kind of protection here because, you know, BSU is going to lose 1,200 students like this in one semester. When those students came over, the end of the year when they reported out, Boise State grew 5% above what they, not only taking those students out, they still grew 5%.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a renaissance across the Western Treasure Valley, where all of a sudden students said, wait, there's all kinds of possibilities here. There's all kinds of opportunities. So when BSU grew at 5% more than they had previous year, giving away 1,200 students to us at the same time, I mean, that tells you there was a huge unmet need for the valley.
Yeah. Zach, you said we've got some questions online. You got that? Okay.
Online, we've had a couple of questions. One of them, actually two of them, were in regards to evening classes. What's kind of the college's position on increasing evening classes, particularly helping those folks that are working during the daytime professionals and looking to expand their professional training in the evenings?
If I might. No. Evening classes are something that I have been, it's not just evening classes. It's having a program that you can sell to the community that says, if you go to CWI Tuesday, Thursday nights for this period of time, you'll be able to get this many credits, and you can graduate in X period of time, so that there's a vision to the student that there's light at the end of the tunnel. We have evening courses, we have all kinds of array of things. What we have not done, which I have been harping on for 3-4 years at least, is to be marketing an evening and weekend program that says, if you do these things in this time period, you can get a degree. but you got to stick with it. You got to take these courses 2-3 nights a week, or you got to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever it is, and we'll put the programming in place and then market that and see if it can hold up. We found a lot of the proprietary schools around us, that's what kind of what their mantra is. That's what their push is. In fact, when we first got on board, this community amazed me. I've been in 5-6 other communities, and the Western Treasury Valley absolutely amazed me in that when we doubled and tripled in size every semester, the first 5 semesters, we literally had proprietary schools, we had universities, we had people come to us and say, look, we know you don't have any money, we know you don't have any facility, you have very limited facilities. I can't think of the name of the school, it was out of Oregon, that was a university here, they were on Overland and Eagle Road. They said, we only use our classrooms at night, you can have them all day long for free, but we want a transfer agreement. We want to make sure that there's a transfer agreement in place. Yeah. So I mean, night courses and evening courses, we have them, but what we have not done is market them in a programmatic structure that says, do this and you can get a degree.
As an original board member, one of our first, things that we talked to Bert about when you were hired was to do that same thing, is to have evening classes, weekend classes, and I think that's still the board's goal. We shouldn't have emptying buildings at night and weekends, and so.
And that's one of the things that I'm really proud about. I'm sure that's not online either, but one of the things we're really proud about now, we're one of the only colleges that I know of that in the Micron Center, that the Albertsons Foundation took the Sam's Club, revamped it. We're offering welding courses almost 24 hours a day. We're offering machine tool courses 16 hours a day. We're offering auto tech courses 16, 18 hours a day. I mean, we're running 2 and 3 shifts in terms of a lot of this programming that's going on. We don't make a big deal out of it, and I think that's one of the typical features of a community college. We don't sell ourselves real well. We just kind of do stuff.
You know, because this person is online, we can't do a follow-up, but I'd like to know, what are they looking for? I mean,
Zach, can you they're online, but can you see if you can get them to?
I can give a little bit of information in regards to the programs. We had one that just asked specifically about the welding program.
Yep.
So we were just responding to him. And then we had a class question in regards to medical classes, so healthcare type classes in the evening. So specifically medical administrative support, which is in our CTE area of the college.
Right.
Patrick's here and he says, have them call, they'll take care of them. Yeah, very good. I'm looking at the clock. I'm kind of gauging the conversation here. More questions? How are we feeling? Good. Let's keep going. All right. So pick a number between 1 and 5. Who's going to ask the first question? So
Possibly.
here, I got it right here.
If you
Right here?
give it another cookie and you'll feel better.
Yeah. Do we need some more cookies? No. The questions are good. That's why we're here.
last night, Mary Nyland from one of our board members from Nampa and one of our original members of the board asked a question, basically said, why do you think the bond failed? And I'd like to know, what do you think why it failed?
I would guess, I'm not in a position to know by any means, but I would guess it was just a lot to buy it at one time.
That's what we've heard too.
If I heard an objection, that was what it was.
Okay.
After reading about it in the news, it seemed pretty evident that it was the advertisement. It was the advertisement that pushed to get the word out through mail. I know I received a mail card in the mail but there was an X amount of dollars that was spent, and where that money came from was questioned. And that's my perspective, and that's kind of seems like the ugly, or the stuff that is pushed underneath the rug, so to say. And but I hope that you guys can give a answer to that question.
About the campaign?
Well, just why you think the bond failed?
Why the bond failed.
Why did the bond fail in your eyes? How would you explain that?
Can we address the money? Address the money first, because that's a real significant factor about where the money came from to run the campaign.
Right. We had an independent campaign. The college did not fund the campaign. The staff didn't participate in this campaign. So we had private citizens to do this campaign. And we had a late start. We didn't raise a lot of money. In fact, we raised less than $20,000 for this campaign. And so I think that was part of it. We had no money to advertise. We had no money for commercials. We had nothing for, print ads. And I think that was part of it. The bond, we got 58% with no advertising. And so, I mean, on one hand, it was a good ratio, but we didn't have enough money and we didn't have enough time to get our word out.
Other perspectives up here at the table, or? So the piece that you received in the mail, see, they got me on a permanent here. The piece that you received, so there's two sides, and I think often the verbiage gets crossed over. So we talk about the campaign. Well, the campaign is an advocacy effort, and that's what the private group was attempting to do, and as the chair said, they were significantly underfunded. The college is required to notify the public of a bond and what the tenets of the bond, the proposed bond, are and what they would go for. So the piece that you received in the mail certainly did come from the college, right? Now, nowhere on the piece does it say, please vote yes, because we can't do that. But there were pieces that went out to inform the public. The vote is coming up November 8th or whatever the day was. This is the amount. These are the buildings that are being proposed to be the use of the funds. But oftentimes, even our friends in the media use that term interchangeably, and they're really not. And I think that's where some of that confusion came from too. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, there's always going to be two sides, and it's easy to play with words. But what was the reason for not getting that money together prior or on time, so to say?
Good follow-up question. You're trained in the classic art of follow-up. Good question.
You mean why we didn't have enough money to do the campaign?
What prevented you from obtaining the amount of money to fund
A
the
successful
campaign? Yes.
Yeah. Part of it was timing. When the board decided to pursue a bond, we had to set up an independent campaign to do this. And it was also it was a presidential election, and a lot of donors that we tried to count on, they were spending their dollars somewhere else. They were spending their dollars for other campaigns. A lot of our supporters of CWI supported the bond, but they didn't have the money because they were supporting other issues or other candidates. That was part of it. And so, again, we didn't have time and we didn't have the money. run a successful campaign.
If I might add on that too, the board had made the decision to run in that November, which was presidential election. Last day before yesterday, when the bonds and the various voting was done, if you look at somebody got 71%, or somebody got 68%, or somebody got whatever it is, what you need to go look at is compare what was the total number of people that voted. Because quite frankly, if you need 70% of 600 people, or we were speculating, the person that was running the campaign originally said going into a presidential election, you might need 178,000 yes votes. Whereas in an off election time, you might need only 10,000 yes votes to win the day.
Just like you can play with words, you can also play with numbers.
Exactly.
Yep, very good.
And
Exactly.
sorry, go on. I just want to add one thing to that. So we did some polling, you know, of the whole district to find out a whole bunch of things about what people thought about CWI before we went out for a bond, right? So we asked them about the health science building. We asked them, what are the things that you care about CWI? What are the things you want us to deliver, right? So this poll was over a year ago now. Maybe more than that, maybe a little more than that, quite a ways back, maybe a year and a half ago. And so, you know, when we went in and did decide to put it on the ballot, we knew that it was a risk. It's always a risk. You never know what's going to happen. But we had some decent ideas that more young people show up in presidential years, and we know that from our polling that more young people supported the college. And so, but you know, this is a survey of 600 people. You never know how it's all going to extrapolate out. But that also, in that polling, also meant you did have to run a full campaign, right? So when we started out and decided we're going to put this on the ballot, we had some decent ideas about why we were going to do it. So I don't want you to think we just randomly decided one day to put it on the ballot. We had some pretty good polling that showed us it was worth trying, it was worth figuring it out. And that 58%, while it didn't get us over the mark, it told us a lot. It gave us a lot of information about what people were thinking, gave us a lot of information about who was saying yes, where they were saying yes from, and so, and then we got to come out and we got to ask more questions, like here, go on.
I think another thing that we hadn't anticipated, quite frankly, the board had, none of us had really anticipated, when you got your ballot, when I got my ballot to vote, it was 4 pages of a ballots. And CWI was on the last page after you'd been through 3 other bonds in front of you. By the time I got to the last page, I was struggling with, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You know, we did not know some of the other bonds.
Did you vote for the bond?
I voted for it, yes. I voted against everybody else, but I voted for the bond.
Well, it sounds like you, I really don't think this is working, or I just
There you
don't
go.
know how to
No,
hold a mic.
You're good right
It's
there.
working.
Well, you have done a lot of good things. You've made a lot of changes. You have new personnel that have different administrative positions. And are you letting the people know about it? Are you, and how that's working out? And do you talk about these statistics? I mean, I thought it was very interesting that CWI is the fastest growing, or the fastest in history of a population increase at the school.
Very good.
Yeah, that was really interesting. That was really
We talk
interesting.
about it all the time, and I'm sure that Mark's department, they talk about it all the time, how we're going to market our success.
Yeah. And that's really the point we're at now, I think here and with the college is, all right, how do we pivot and look at the future? So we've had this wild success. How do we build on that? Because the success for us, yes, enrollment is great. But what we're really focusing on is how do we connect students with a career path that helps them be successful for whatever their goals are, job, career, family, that, you know, whatever they want to do. How do we help line them up to help them achieve their goals? And that's really the success that we're looking at, and that's why these 3 folks and 2 others who couldn't make it here tonight are out here saying, hey, we'll take all the ideas you got.
And you have other people besides the younger generation. But I think if we think about ourselves, no matter what our age is, that we're all students.
Yeah.
We can all be students, and we can all move forward in a positive direction.
I like it. I like it.
Well, you were at the graduation Saturday night, and we had one graduate was,
The youngest was 17 and the
16.
oldest was 68.
68, I believe. Yep. Pretty good span.
A couple of years ago, we had one that was, the range, two years ago, the range was 16 and 80 and 92. Oof. We had somebody that graduated at 92.
There you go.
It was in,
If you tell me history, I'm going to laugh.
no,
If
it
it
was in
lived through most of it.
psychology. It was a
Okay.
psychology degree. She was trying to take care of her grandkids, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
Great grandkids, that's what it was. Yeah.
Final thoughts up here.
I'd love to hear more from Skip if you have anything you want to add. Trustees.
I'm trying to take a little heat off you guys.
Well, one of the interesting things for me as the newest board member is looking at Parma, where we're sitting now. This precinct voted over 90% to create the college. Roswell, Apple Valley, Ten Davis, all high 80s to create the college. 3 or 4 of the best precincts out of the entire election, but none of those precincts supported the bond. Something has been lost in the translation, because I remember Governor Otter having his very first capital for a day after he was elected in Parma. And it was also one of his first goals to try and achieve. And so a lot of that day was spent talking about the needs in the community. And I remember the people at AgriLines, I remember the people at Parma Company, all talking about the need for welders. All of these manufacturing we have here in the ag world in Parma, and how dependent they are with having those employees that had the training. And that's why it passed. And now trying to figure out why those people are not as supportive. Are we not turning out the welders they need? Are they disappointed? And that's why I really appreciate Mark and Emily taking a lead in trying to move around to answer questions like that. Because I had one of the great moments of my life going to my first commencement exercise of the graduates of College of Western Idaho. Seeing the joy in their faces, seeing the families, and you know, it was like a giant pep rally. It was great fun.
I got on the big screen. My husband told me, "You're on the big screen."
No, it was a great time, and I'm learning about all the wonderful things the college is doing. But I think you've alluded to that. We have got to get the Parma Idahos to understand what we're doing and get that enthusiasm back for us going forward. Because as little as I know about the college, I am impressed incredibly by the job they are doing, dealing with this growth, trying to get to the online services, getting into the schools, all of the things they're doing. It's tremendous. But I think these guys have done a great job in trying to get that input from the public, because there's something that's missing in the translation from what I think is a tremendous job to an appreciation within the community of that job. And there's some disconnect. So I think even though we have a small crowd here tonight, this is important that we're here. It's important that we let people know that we are more than willing to listen, and we want to meet their needs.
Mr. Chairman, that's pretty good closing summation if you've got anything else to add. Oh, we have time for one more? Sure. Okay.
Yes. All right, and this one actually probably goes more to you, Bert, so you might not want to turn your mic off quite yet.
Okay.
There was an inquiry that came in, a gentleman that has spent some time at CWI, in regards to tutoring and increasing of funding and funding of those services for students. Where are we, and are those going to be increasing?
I'd need more specifics. Our last line items that went through, we were adding advisors, and I know that they've restructured the tutoring department and restructured the tutoring and testing area. I would encourage them to call me directly or something, because to answer that, I need kind of more I don't know of any immediate expansion in the tutoring area. Is that individual still online?
Yeah, their question was, I would like to know if there will be an increase in funding for tutoring for students that need help. So, general overall help for students. What are we doing? Is the funding increasing for that?
I don't know about the funding so much as we've talked about. We've designated specific areas. We have a group of student ambassadors that we're recruiting. We have a group of student mentors that we're bringing on. The funding is one thing separate from the actual numbers of students that are going to be involved in the tutoring effort. So funding, we didn't get a whole lot of funding to increase a lot of funding efforts, but what we have done is gone after volunteers, gone after student mentors, and gone out of every club and organization we're working with that particular service to help increase the tutoring effort across the campus. So,
I think the answer, Zach, is yes, there's efforts underway. Patrick's division is completely revamping so we can increase the number of advisors that we have. It's interesting to me that, technology and everything we have, we feel like we're more and more independent, but yet some of the old tried and true ways of face-to-face, hand-to-hand are still the most successful when it comes to our students. Getting face-to-face with an advisor who helps them down the path of making sure that everything's corrected. So thank you. I think unless we've got anything else, we're gonna wrap it up. So we want to say thank you to our Facebook Live audience, to you folks here, President, trustees. It's been a very good night. Beautiful night in Parma. So yeah, there is the email, listening tour at CWIdaho.com. Oh, Zach's giving me the, yeah. We look at this, big finale right there. So, listening tour at CWIdaho.com. Thank you.